So, like Dr. Birdie said, my family's from the northern region of Iraq, in a place called Kurdistan. And most likely, like other Kurds, my family was Sunni Muslim. But growing up, my father was not much of a religious man, but to the contrary, my mother was. And so, from a very young age, I felt that it was really important to me to be close to God. Most of my family was very religious. And so I saw this, relationship that I thought that they had with God. And I was jealous of it, even at a super young age. So by the time I was about 8 years old, I remember I was visiting back home in Kurdistan. And I asked my cousin, please teach me how to pray. I want to learn how to pray. Because if I learn how to pray, that means I can be close to God like everybody else is. And so I learned how to pray like every other Muslim. And then I began to pray 5 times a day, fast every Ramadan. And over the next course of, I would say about 5, 6 years, until I was about 14 or 15, I came to the realization that throughout this whole time, I'm praying all the time, I'm fasting, but I kind of felt like this void inside of me. It was like I was lying to myself about something, saying that I believed in something when I really didn't, and I didn't understand this, and it upset me. So the first thing I did was I thought to myself, maybe I'm just not close enough with God. Maybe I need to become a better Muslim. So I started to invest myself more into Islam, tried to read the Quran more, tried to become a better Muslim, pray more. And over time, I just kept on filling this void, and that void got bigger and bigger, and I didn't understand what it was. And so eventually I just came to the point where I just left Islam altogether. And I didn't understand why either at the point when I did. It was just, I didn't believe in it. And I couldn't accept that with myself. I can't be praying 5 times a day and fasting all the time as if I believe in it when I don't. And so eventually throughout about a year after that, one thing led to another, and I met this man, this Christian man. And at the time, I had already left Islam, so I was having a discussion one time with him about Islam, how I thought Islam was wrong and the things that I thought were wrong with Islam. And then I started to ask him questions about Christianity. And obviously he was an older man, so with respect I would ask him questions, but I tried my best to ask him really, really difficult questions. And so he told me, Rand, I want to ask you if it's okay with you if I can just answer your questions through a couple of meetings that we'll have together, just one-on-one. We sit down and I answer all your questions for you, because it seems like you have a lot of really important questions that need to be addressed. And so I agreed with him, and I met with him several times. And one thing I want to highlight about meeting with him over the course of, a couple months was every single question I asked, no matter how difficult the question was, no matter how much of a controversial topic it was, he would open up his Bible. And for every question, he'd point to a verse. He never ever answered a question through his own words. And that amazed me. It just blew me away. No matter what I asked him, he would just point to the Bible and say, this is the verse and this is your answer. And over time, I had this feeling inside of me, and it started to grow, and I didn't know what it was. And eventually it came to a point where I was sleeping one night and I woke up and I thought to myself, am I really believing this? Is this something that I'm starting to believe in? And I became upset with myself. Being Muslim, the worst thing you can do, especially being a Sunni Muslim, is going from Sunni Islam to Christianity. So to me, this was like, it's impossible. There's no way I believe in this. I was telling myself, I'm just confused. I'm a confused young man. This is not something for me. So what I did was that morning I woke up, I went to my mother and father's room. I was the only one in the house. I took out the prayer mat to pray. I hadn't prayed in about 2 years. I laid down the prayer mat, and in Islam, when you're praying, at one point you bow your head to the floor. And so I was praying. I said a couple of Quran verses that I was supposed to when I prayed. And then when I went down to the floor, I put my head down to bow. I started crying, and I stopped praying. And the reason I was crying was because I realized this whole time throughout my whole life, I'd been looking for God, and I finally found Him. And I found Him in Jesus. And when I realized that one moment, it was just like this overwhelming sense of joy, knowing that my whole life I'd been looking for Jesus, even though I didn't know. I thought I'd been looking for Allah, but I was looking for Jesus the entire time, and He was looking for me. And so I was able to find Jesus. And from that point on, I had became a Christian. And to describe to you that feeling of coming from Islam and finding Jesus and knowing in my heart that Jesus is God is overwhelming. I wish I could stand up here and spend an hour trying to explain to you all what it's like, but I can't because I can't put it into words. You know, that void I had being a young man, being a young Muslim, trying to understand God, have a relationship with God, it led me to finding Jesus, and now I don't have that void anymore. I know 110% for sure that this is right, and I truly believe in it. I wake up every day, no matter what happens in my life, and I know that God is there and Jesus is God. And that's why I think it's very important for a class like this to exist, and it's very important for you all to understand that no matter how, scared you might be to talk to a non-Christian, to talk to a Muslim, or talk to a Jew, or talk to an atheist about the gospel, I think it's really important that you do, because if it wasn't for that man answering the questions that I had for him and having the courage to spread the gospel to me, and I mean, you guys don't have to use any, convincing techniques or anything, or try to, be super smart or be, have a theology degree. All you gotta do is use the Bible. That's all he used. He didn't tell me anything for myself. And I remember the day I told him, he hugged me, he started crying, and I thanked him. He said, no, don't thank me. I didn't do anything. It was Jesus. It was God's word. And that's all we have. All we need. All we need is God's word. And if we truly believe in God, we all know that God's word is enough. He will do the work. Our job is to spread that gospel to them, to everybody. So once again, thank you all for coming out, and I just wanted to share my story with you all to inspire you all to, spread the gospel to others, and hopefully one day all of you can say that you helped spread the gospel to someone, and that someone comes to you one day and comes to us.